Okay, I'm back home after the Hume and Hovell walk. So what's the dirt on the Hume and Hovell walking track? Well, the walk's around 440 kilometres. It's a bit hard to nail it down exactly because there's a few closures that you've got to walk around, and there's a few like variants, and there's a couple of side trips you can do, but we'll call it around 440 kilometres. So it's a fairly long walk by Australian standards. It's probably, it's just below the Australian Alps walking track, which is 660 or something. So, but it's more than the Great North Walk or the Great Southwest Walk or the Larapinta or some of those that are in the low 200s or 200s. So it's a decent length track. It runs from Yass to Albury in southern New South Wales, kind of on the western slopes of the Great Dividing Range. And the walk passes through a fairly wide variety of landscapes. You've got everything from farming to forestry. You walk through Yass, you walk through Albury. Well, you kind of walk through Albury at the end of it. So there's a few towns. Hume and Hovell aren't far off the track. The actual trail itself, so the tread of the trail, is everything from bitumen down to just no trail, walking through paddocks or kind of grasslands. The majority of the trail, I'd say, is either dirt roads or single track. But there's a mix of everything on this one. The trail is also, surprisingly, very well marked and maintained. I went into this, I've got a few friends that have walked this track, and they were thinking that it was, when they did it, it was pretty rough. It wasn't well signposted, and there was a lot of blackberries to push through. You can see where the blackberries are an issue, but when I went through in autumn, the blackberries were fine. I'd actually carried my gators, but didn't use my gators once, so I ended up leaving them in a food drop, a couple of food drops from the end of the walk. So yeah, if you're doing it, I think if you went in spring, it might be a bit different. The grass might be a bit higher, and so we've got some people walking down our back fence line along a bike path. The grass may be a little bit higher, and the blackberries mightn't have been knocked back yet, but the trail maintainers, I met the guys doing the trail maintaining, and they're doing a sensational job. There's 3 guys do the whole track from Yass to Albury, which is a fairly substantial length of track, and to be honest with you, I don't think they've got the budget to work. I think they only work a few months a year because they haven't got the budget to be full-time workers on it. Anyway, I'm waffling a little bit, but yeah, the track is at the moment, when I did it, well marked, well maintained, and well signposted. There's numerous official spots to camp along the journey. I was quite often passing 1 or 2 camps during the day, so where I was doing 25 Ks, there's sometimes was an option to shorten those days. Most of the time, most of the official camps have a table under a shelter, and then maybe another table and a fireplace and a long drop. Quite a few of them have tanks. If they haven't got a tank, they've normally got a fairly reliable creek nearby. Some of the trailhead camps like Fitzgerald and Henry Angel, some of them are even more fancy. They may have some of them have even got hot showers, flushing toilets, bins. So yeah, just it's not like your normal. It's not like a Southwest Tasmania walk when you're in the wilderness for days on end and there's nothing. That said, if you do want to do this walk and you don't enjoy camping around people that have driven, maybe, then maybe consider not doing the walk in Easter, or that wasn't me. Maybe consider don't doing the walk at Easter school holidays or public holidays. Because people can drive in, it can get a little bit busy. So yeah, if I did it again, I'd probably push it back till after the New South Wales school holidays and go in a quieter time, or go a little bit before the school holidays. There is chances, if it's not so dry, even when it was dry, if you don't mind carrying water, you could bush camp in between the official on the public land. Obviously, you have to stay off. Don't camp on private land. But some of the national parks and state parks, you could bush camp in for sure. Because there's so much easy road access for this walk, I did 5 food drops, which meant that I was never carrying more than about 4 or 5 days food at once on this one, which is perfect for me as I'm fairly old and broken. But you could go without food drops and hitch into Tumbarumba or Tumut, the supermarkets there. Or you could leave your food drops in those towns too. There's also accommodation in Tumbarumba and Tumut if you wanted a night out of the tent. Normally at Barranjak Waters you can get a cabin too, but obviously I was there on Good Friday, I think it was, and there was no way I was getting a cabin. And there's also a cabin accommodation down at the Lake Hume Resort, a couple of nights out of Albury. So like I mentioned, the year I went this year was very dry, very, very dry. Mate, I still only really needed 2 litres of water, to carry 2 litres of water, except I carried 3 out of Tumut along the Blowering because I knew the dam was very low. And I'd heard there wasn't a lot of water flowing into it, which was right. In the end, I only carried 3 for a day, and then I ditched my extra container they have some rubbish bins out at some of those camps along Blowering. So yeah, I got rid of one of my 1.25 litre drink container that I was carrying. In a normal year, you probably wouldn't have as much of a worry with that. All right. So as far as navigation goes, I used the Hume and Hovell topos from about, they must be almost 20 years old, I think. And I used John and Lynn Daly's notes out of their Take a Walk in Southern New South Wales book. They've specifically written up the Hume and Hovell Track, but they're probably 15 years old as well. The only relatively new info I had was my AllTrails digital map. And to be honest, the notes, the topos and the notes from the dailies, they were still accurate enough. There was spots that were wrong. AllTrails was definitely more accurate though on this one because it's more current. While I was on the track, I think they released a new set of topos, so there is some new maps out. Go to the Hume and Hovell website to work out how to purchase them. As far as gear goes, so that's the logistics of it all. As far as gear goes on this walk, it was basically my standard setup. So I took my HMG, my black HMG Windrider pack, it's about 60 litres. I took my duplex, my Z-Pax duplex tent. I took my Thermarest Neo Air pad and my Tier Gear quilt. And all those things were fine for this walk. If it was the middle of winter and it was freezing cold, you'd probably have to go for a quilt or a sleeping bag that was good down to -3 or 4, I guess. I had some nights that were pretty close to 0, but I was comfy enough in my quilt. I took my gaiters because I thought it was going to be very scratchy with blackberries, but it turns out I didn't use my gaiters. So like I said, I left them in a food box with a couple of drops before I got to the end. Now this walk, like I've alluded to I think already, it's not a wilderness style walk. So if your jam is walking southwest Tassie or wild national parks full of natural landscapes, this walk probably isn't for you. It's more of an historical journey. So it follows Hume and Hovell's more or less the route of Hume and Hovell's original expedition back in the 1800s, and it goes through a lot of forestry, farmland, native bush, some small, like Yass and Albury, decent sized towns. There's a lot of European history, there's a lot of Indigenous history. So if that kind of thing interests you, then this walk is definitely worth considering. If anyone of my Victorian watchers want to compare it to something, I'd compare it to the Goldfields track from Mount Buninyong or Ballarat up to Bendigo, where it goes through all the goldfields. This is a similar type of thing, bit of everything on the walk. Look, that pretty much covers it, I think. If anyone's got any questions about the Hume and Hovell Track, I mean, I'd do it again. Possibly not exactly the time of the year I did it this time, and maybe I'd choose a different season or a different direction or something. But yeah, I enjoyed it. If anyone's got any questions, fire away in the comments, and and chances are I'll miss something. And I'll get back to you when I have a chance. But yeah, keep in mind that I might be out walking for a few weeks at a time before I even see the comment. All right, take it easy, and I'll catch you on the next one.